All right, we need to talk about Craig McRae's Copeland Trophy comments that just come out on 7AFL. So on Wednesday, Craig McRae was being interviewed, I think Nick Daicos as well, something to do with horses. I'm not a horse racing guy, some sort of spring carnival sort of thing. Anyway, he was interviewed and talked about various things about football, and then he was seemingly asked, will you look at Copeland Trophy votes or something like that, right? This is not just an impromptu answer. He was asked the question and answered with this. He said, the process is in place, but I always want to challenge them. So challenging the processes, challenging the coaches and stuff. I think Darcy Cameron is a great winner, but I'd look at the process, and there were times where I think Nick probably could have got more votes here and there. I'll make sure with the position I'm in that I'll be able to ask the right questions of the right people and make the necessary changes where we think there needs to be. Now, this blew up. This absolutely blew the hell up. And the place where it blew up the most, obviously, is Twitter. And opposition supporters are getting right into it and just, oh, because Nick came second and all this and the Brownlow, now he wants to change the voting and stuff. And I've got a lot of thoughts, so let's get into it. First off, can we just, Craig, I love you so much. I don't know if you watch my videos, but I really do love you so much. We didn't need to say this, right? First off, we didn't need to say this, especially after everything, after the 16 disposal comment, which I thought was funny anyway, really funny. Nick coming second. We knew that anything to do with the Copeland, with Nick's name attached to it, is going to blow up. I would have loved more context behind it, which I will give context in a second, my own sort of context. We just knew this was going to blow up, right? This could have just been straight batted or let through to the keeper. It was a stupid question that like the reporters, obviously the journos, they're wanting a story. They've obviously tried to find one. They fished for one and they found one. Maybe if it was said, maybe if Fly said, look, we're going to look at the voting. We always look at the voting every single year to see how best we can do it. And then we can just go from there. Perfect. But to say Darcy Cameron is a great winner, but it's just like, man, I'd love to be, no pun intended, to fly on the wall to see how Darcy is feeling. I don't think he'd be feeling too bad. I think it might have been, the comments are bad, like not terrible. On the surface, they're pretty bad, but I think contextual wise, I don't think they're that bad that everyone's making them out to be. It's just because, it is Collingwood and it's the Copeland and a name attached and Nick came second, right? I wonder if, Darcy lost by 2 votes. If Craig McRae, he probably would have said the same thing as well. And then the narrative would have been, oh, you don't think Nick is the best and fairest? Like, because Darcy got 2 votes, you think he can get a couple more votes here and there? It's like, you know what I mean? So, I think this was a lose-lose just in general. Now, the second part of my thoughts is that we literally changed the way the Copeland is voted from 2024 to 2025. It's not like we haven't been changing the way the Copeland is voted for years and years and years. And I can back it up with evidence, which is incredible. But what I mean to say, and why I'm saying that, is just change it. Just change it without telling anybody. I don't know, maybe all clubs change the way that their award nights are, the points are given or whatever. We did it in 2024 to 2025 and no one said anything. Sure, questions weren't asked because Nick did win last year. But again, no one cared. No one said anything. Even these journos who were making these articles didn't bother to, to look at what happened last year to see that the voting was changed. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid that no one's done any research around it to see that we have changed it over the last few years. I reckon it's changed every single year for the last 3 or 4 years. But we're going to look into it now. Okay, we're going to look back 5 years of Copeland Trophy winners and look at their votes. They'll be popping up on the screen. So, In 2025, the top five was Taylor Adams with 100 votes, Pendles with 71, Jack Crisp 63, Darcy Moore 62, and Maynard 59. Now, the crap thing about those last few years in the Collingwood articles that I found is they don't tell you how voting occurred. But you're looking at 2020, that was the COVID years, 100 votes. They're probably, if this year in 2025 it was 20 votes per game, there was definitely less votes per game there. It's probably like 6 votes per game. Maybe every coach got 1 vote or 2 votes per game. So you can see that the voting is really low. Back in 2020, looking at 100 votes for the winner. Now, if you move to 2021, your top 5 was Jack Crisp with 90 votes, Maynard with 70, Pendles with 67, DeGoey with 66, and Steele Sidebottom with 59. Now, if you look at 2020 and 2021, the voting is kind of similar. 100 votes for Taylor Adams in 2020, 90 votes for Jack Crisp in 2021. You can kind of say that maybe the voting process could have changed slightly, or it was just the same and it was more evenly spread around the top. So not too concerned with that. But again, the winner, keep in mind the winner of 2021, Jack Crisp, had 90 votes. So now we look at 2022 and things are starting to change a little bit. Again, there's no indication of how the best and fairest is split up with the votes, but Jack Crisp goes back to back with 291 votes. So that's a jump from 90 votes. He's gotten an extra 201 votes in a year. There's a change. There's a change to the Copeland, right? There's an absolute change to the Copeland. Darcy Moore, 269 second. Jeremy Howe, 266 third. Sidebottom, 265. Lipinski, 259. So everyone really, really, really close. Nick Daicos, 258 sixth. So everyone is really, really close in that top 5. So I don't know. It's a little bit interesting that Jack Crisp went from a Copeland in 2021 with 90 votes to a Copeland in 2022, back to back, mind you, with 291 votes. But they still haven't told us how the voting works. So again, you're looking at maybe 20 votes per game, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We don't really know. And there's no point dividing it up and stuff like that because there's too much math involved. And this is why the Copeland and all of these best and fairest just need one way to vote. But now let's look at 2023, which was our premiership year. Now, the top 5 here. Josh Daicos, 301 votes. Nick and Maynard finished equal with 287. Mitchell, 283. Pendles on 282. Now, the 223 and 2022 Copeland, 291 for Jack Crisp in 2022. 301 votes in 2023 for Josh Daicos. Now, that looks pretty even to me. I don't think voting has changed between 2022 and 2023. So I'm really, really happy about that. Again, I couldn't find anything that said how they were voted on. But let's look at 2024. Now, this is where we get confirmation on how it's voted. And this is where votes just bloody insane, right? Now, 2024. Each coach is asked to award votes to every player in the game's 23-player team. The maximum number of votes a player can receive per round is 64. A reminder that Josh Daicos won the 2023 Copeland Trophy on 301 votes. Nick won the 2024 Copeland Trophy with 997 votes. Almost 1,000. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing here? That is ridiculous. This is how the top 5 were. That is ridiculous. What's happening? Like 997 votes. So you're telling me the winner went up almost 700 votes from 2024 from 2023 to 2024. So the process was changed to 64 votes. And then let's look at 2025 where McRae says, we'll look at the process. Darcy Cameron wins with 328, Nick Daicos with 315, etc., etc., etc. The maximum number of votes a player can receive per round in 2025 was 20 votes. So they've shaved off 44 votes per game for that a player can receive. So 64 in 2024 and 20 in 2025. Now, this probably reflects more on the 2023-2022 voting system, and they went right up in 2024 and then came right down. Does the Copeland need to be changed? Does the voting system need to be changed? Yes. It is shithouse. It is shocking. No one can know. Like, how do you go from almost 1,000 votes last year to 328 votes this year? Then you look at 2021 when Jack Crisp won, it was 90, and then it shoots up to 291. The voting is all out. I think it doesn't bring too much integrity to the best and fairest, in my sort of opinion, because the voting is all up and down, and anyone could have won it sort of any year, and I just think it's really stupid. There needs to be one way that they do it and never change it again. So, in conclusion, has this been blown out of proportion? Yes. Should Craig McRae have said what he said? No. Sometimes we don't need to say everything that's in our head. We can just let this roll to the keeper. Just say, we're looking at the processes, whatever. It was 1,000 votes yesterday, last year, blah, 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 blah. We don't have to say everything that's in our head. The Copeland Trophy is so prestigious, but it's always been really cooked with voting. It has always been really, for as long as I can remember, has always been cooked with voting. And I'm sure if you go even further than 5 years, it's just as cooked. The media loves a Collingwood story. Opposition supporters love a Collingwood story. Opposition supporters love a Nick Daicos story. And they've got everything that they could ask for. We just have to wait for this to blow over. There's going to be another big story from another team, and it's going to take precedent over this. Just ride the wave, but change the Copeland Trophy voting system for the love of God. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shackers. I'll see you later.